So let me just reach out to the people who are into comedy and wordplay. This became on my bucket list once my daughter started competing competitively, doing puns of all things. And I want to welcome to the podcast Fred Firestone from Punderdome. Welcome, Fred.
Hey, Steve, well, thank you. I look forward to chatting with you as I always do.
What's great about this interview with you is that I've been to the Punderdome, and every person that I've brought as a guest to the Punderdome, by the way, the Punderdome, for those who are watching, is every month or so in Brooklyn at Littlefield. And if you've got a bucket list of exciting things you want to do, you want to have fun, put the Punderdome on your list. But I have to say, every guest that I brought were wowed. What an experience.
Wow. Thanks for the psychic income, brother. Appreciate that. We want to do it right by people, and that's very gratifying.
So I got to ask you this. So to bring people up to speed, Fred and his daughter Jo invented the Punderdome. I think you did the live performance first and then came up with, there's a card game too. You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
So tell me about just the early start of how you came together to do this, and we'll get deeper and deeper as we go.
All right. Sounds good. Let's go back to 2011, May 2011. My daughter, Joanna, was a budding comedian in New York City, and I live in St. Louis. And her modus operandi would be to rent a basement of a bar. And with a week to go, she normally didn't know what she was going to do. She would do a bullshit bingo or things of that ilk, would engage the audience in some crazy wild stuff. Anyway, with a week to go, she had rented this bar in Southpaw, and a basement of a bar. With a week to go, she didn't know what she was going to do.
Wow.
So a friend of hers who was from Austin suggested, you might want to do a pun competition. And she referenced the O. Henry Pun-Off, which is an institution in Austin, a pun competition. And so Joanna, with I think 5 days to go, says she was going to do a pun competition. So 5 days, he then tells the facility, and they start to announce it, a pun competition. With about 4 days to go, she calls me up, and she says,
gosh.
Dad, now she's 28 at the time, or 25 at the time. She says, Dad, I'm doing a pun competition. How would you do it? I said, who is this? Now, I'm not used to having my adult daughter say, how would I do anything? I get eye rolls. Okay, Dad,
Yeah, sure.
So, I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but so she said, how would you do it? Well, my background, I do business seminars. I'm a consultant and have done for the years in business seminars. And I've always believed in terms of what I do, I've got to build integrity of purpose. I've got to build value for my clients. And then how do I come up with ways to engage them in fun so they're much more favorably predisposed to my message? Build the foundation of value and come up with a fun mechanism to engage the audience. So, I've been doing this for about 30 years at the time, and one of the things I'd done over time was I came up with a game show set for a client because it was a way to, all these things that we want to impart, engage their people in this game show format, which hopefully worked. I can't speak to that, but hopefully It worked. So in my garage, I have a game show set with a buzzer and bell, and so I used that on the dining room table growing up with the kids. Joanna, you have your napkin on your lap. Ding, 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 ding. Ben, you were chewing ice too much. A buzzer and bell. So that's how they were brought up, kind of crazy, a buzzer and bell. And so she knew that I was into game shows. And so she said to me, well, how would you do this pun competition, which I'm doing in 4 days? Well, I don't know the first thing about puns. Neither
Right.
did she. And so what I suggested to her, I said, I don't know, I can speak from my experience. You really need to have a human clapometer. She says, what? I said, well, if you're going to engage the audience, they should be inextricably linked with the deliverable. And so if there is an audience participation whereby the human clapometer discerns how loud, how long the applause is, you've succeeded in engaging the audience so they're not just attending it, they're a part of it. Maybe that will help in a pun competition. So we were talking about different things, and she said, would you come up to New York and do it with me? So I quote the Tommy Boy when Tommy Boy says, no, okay. And I said, no. Second later, I said, okay. So anyway, I went up to New York and we brainstormed some things, and we did that in May 2011. That was our maiden voyage in the pun competition.
And you know, it's amazing when I speak to artists here on the Long Island Sound, and there is a music tie-in. I'll leave that as a bit of a mystery because everyone's got to hang on to find about the music portion of the Punderdome. I'll leave that a bit of a mystery. And by the way, I want everybody to comment. Hey, if you're a pun lover or you want to know more about puns, please comment in the comment section. I reply to every comment, and we're going to have links to the Punderdome, and we got so much more to talk about. So I want to just give the audience some insight how I discovered the Punderdome. And it was really through my daughter, and I'll talk about her story. She lives in New York City now, different parts. And her friend Gracie said, hey, let's go to the Gowanus section. There's this place, Littlefield, and let's check out the Punderdome. And lo and behold, my daughter's not afraid of the microphone. By the way, we pun a little bit in the house, although like we're crazy punters now because, thank you, Fred, because of the Punderdome.
I saw that eye roll. I noted that, buddy. Now, what year was this when you first came? You know?
Oh God, this had to be about maybe going on 5-6 years ago. Now, yeah, okay. And Faith fell in love immediately with it. By the way, the contestants in the Punderdome have pun names. Her name is Hot Cross Puns, and there's a whole list of them.
Yes,
and we'll talk about that. And what amazed me. Not only the fun that we had and the campy, quirky game show aspect of it, but you really, like you said, gave value to me in a new experience, a lot of fun, a lot of jokes, a lot of groans and eye rolls, and it's low comedy, and it's all of that. But the one thing that it left for me was a sense of how you build community. And we're going to talk about how that building community came about during COVID. Yeah. But then my daughter got hooked.
New York's most puntastic competition, the Punderdome.
Your puns tonight, you absolutely wrecked them.
I went to the bathroom. I thought I had to go number 2, but I didn't. It was a shampoo. I'm gonna freak it down!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want a lot of nicer puns from me this evening? Did you miss demeanor puns of the other?
That is a certified pun. I just can't.
What do you do when you can't ski or snowboard?
What?
YouTube.
You know, a lot of people have sex on a bed, but I prefer a couch because they're more likely to pull out.
I think the best city to meditate in has got to be Aha.
Contestant number 3.
Your daughter, I have to say, Hot Cross Puns. I don't even really know her real name. I don't know, but Hot Cross Puns is just an amazing competitor. She has a cuteness about her. She's so very able with wordplay. And, you know, what we find is that in order to be effective at the Punderdome, you've got to be a good punter, but you've got to know how to connect with the audience. ABC, right. Always be connecting. And there are different components of how people connect, but she is she is a wonderful connector, and people love her. She loves to play, and she's very able, and it's just she's a gem of a person, in addition to being a gem of a punter.
Oh, thanks so much. What I found interesting in your business life, Fred, is, and I do this as well from my sales perspective, is how you intertwine what you found successful in the business world and in consulting and brought it to entertainment. And there's talk about that more, how that came about, because it's really, I picked up a lot of business tips just going to the Punderdome.
I try to do that, and thanks for saying that and recognizing that. So in my business career, my business seminars, I worked with a lot of companies on how to add value to their products and services. And we looked at differentiation and how do you do that, how to add more value. But one of the crucial things we looked at, once we know how to differentiate, is we looked at the crucial touch points along the cycle of service. Okay. And so how I look at it, I have two customers. I've got internal customers who are the champion punters. So you have to set up a culture where they want to come back, i.e. the names, how they're known in the dome. We did that just to pattern professional wrestling. We have jargon slayer, it's a vowel movement. It goes on, but that's how they're known in the dome. So if they can have fun by being known that way in the dome, and then also, what are the touch points on the cycle service where I could provide value to them? Well, we have a leaderboard. So I keep track of all the wins. And so that we have a leaderboard, and then they're known by how many wins they have in the dome. By the way, your daughter has 14, and she's in the top 10 of all time, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So if we can apply that model of what are your different customers, and how do we provide value, and what are the touch points along the cycle of service where we deliver value. So during the prior to the Punderdome, we'll do some postings about what people have done, maybe a video they've done. In addition, at the Punderdome, they're known. So we'll sign up all these champions, and we have a tournament of pun champions, and we'll sign up 6 weeks in advance. Wow. So that's our first customer base. If they can feel good about coming to the dome, it's important too. There's a culture of acceptance. Everybody, the culture is that we all have a good time with it. Nobody gets hurt. This conventional thing you see so many comedians do where they've got to bring somebody down is bullshit.
Right.
It just doesn't work. And so everybody's got to win. And so if it can be fun, if people can know that they're never going to get hurt, and there's that culture, and they're going to be known, and they're going to be celebrated, that particular component of that customer base hopefully will want to come back. So that has to be in place. Right. The second customer are those external people that come to the Punderdome. What are the touch points along the cycle of service? How do we recognize them? Well, classic example is the human clapometer. So the clapometer, which I had an aha in circa 1968, when I'm watching a show called Queen for a Day. You're too young to know about this. But it was crazy because it was kind of a pathetic show. This host would interview these three women about why their plight in life was worse than the other two. And then the audience would decide via the clapometer who would win the grand prize, a set of golf clubs or something. I don't know what it was. So I found it interesting. I couldn't articulate at the time, but what a way to engage the audience. So that they inextricably link with the outcome. As a result, they own the direction of the show. So it's always intrigued me. In my seminars, I've used a human clapometer and played with that. So we incorporated it in the Punderdome, and I find the decibel level is so freaking high because the audience, they own part of the show, which they should. That's as opposed to just attending it. And there are other points as well, but along the cycle of service. One of the things we do when I start the Punderdome off, I start a pun. And it goes something like this. I'll get out in front of the crowd. I'll say, you see your buddy named Jack on an airplane. You don't want to yell out what? And somebody that yells out, hi, Jack, we throw them a payday. That is a payday candy bar, So my thought is if somebody gets a payday, they got a piece of the dome. If we can start out by engaging the audience, there's no wall. There's no stage. We're on one big stage. Everybody's on it. And if I can throw up paydays and they grab it, you got a piece of the dome. So if we can set that culture up, then they're more favorably predisposed when it comes to engaging with the hot cross puns of the world. They're there. They're playing it back and forth with her. They're playing with the human clapometer. It's theirs. And the value is enhanced.
Right.
Objective. That's our objective.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, and I may have told you this story before. I remember, when I would give seminars, and I had my good friend, my late friend Bill Cushon, he threw a trick question at me. He goes, "Oh, what time does your presentation start?" I said, "Oh, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." He goes, "Absolutely wrong." It's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It starts the day before when you check everything out. It starts when you walk down the hall. It starts when you talk to people in the audience, engage the audience before any formal introduction." And I got to throw kudos out to you, Fred, because you do that. But not only do that when people are coming into Littlefields in Brooklyn, but by extension, and you may or may not know this, is you have built a fantastic community. And I've been at Dinosaur Barbecue around the block to meet my daughter for dinner, and lo and behold, 6 other punters show up, and guess what they're doing? They're trying to figure out, okay, what's the subject matter going to be? Where do you think Fred's going to go? And they share their puns with each other. Even though they're potential competitors. And I looked at that and I said, wow, it's a really loving community. And I always get on my soapbox a little bit, particularly in this day and age of the internet and social media where people are less social. What a fantastic event to come to socialize and really, really have fun.
Well, that speaks to me, man. My brother, I appreciate that. That means a lot, and you guys bring it. I mean, it's I love that we had that competition last year where you do a duo with your parent, and that was great. It's just fun to see that kind of that sense of play with a parent and child. That's what as a parent. That's rock and roll heaven if you can do that. And some things are challenging, and you want to grasp those opportunities. But you did wonderful. It was just so much fun to see that.
Let me tell you, the first time I ever got egged on to do it prior to that competition against my daughter, till that point, that was the scariest thing I ever did in my life in front of an audience. And I've talked to, I've given presentations to a couple of thousand, but there you're on the spot, you're given the topic, and you have 2 minutes to put it together, to string it together. Right. I'll never forget, my topic was popular baby names. And at the time, I'm thinking, I'm a 58-year-old guy. What the hell do I know is popular for a kid's name? And I got hung up. But I did a minute and a half, so I was proud of myself. Good. And then sometimes the scariest things when you confront them, you get the bug. So when you did compete against a Punderdome champ, somehow by the grace of God, I love that. Yeah. I won the rounds. And then I get to pick the pun champion. So they're all lined up, like a beauty pageant. Yeah. And of course, you knew who I was going to pick, right?
Man, that's poetry in motion, man.
I got to pick a bone with you here.
You won't be the first one to do that. I just want you to know.
All right. Well, and of course, so against my 28, 29-year-old daughter at the time, what was the topic? Sex and cities.
I think it was sex in the city. That was it. Yeah, sorry about that.
Talk about the eye roll.
Yeah, yes. It's interesting with the eye roll, and that's where I hope that we do this, is that conventional wisdom is a pun is a dad joke, and AKA eye roll. And I've seen these things at some competitions, and hey, everybody does their own thing, but where somebody say, all right, I'll tell you a little background about how ours works, but they'll say, all right, here's the topic. We'll go down, give me a pun on the topic, and they'll go down the line, and then whoever can't within 20 seconds or whatever, they're being their turn, they're out. Well, that was so much eye roll. It's an eye roll. And I find that we're changing the body part on this. I think what we're doing, we're moving in from the eye roll to the side split.
Right.
Okay. Yep. And I think the way it's structured, and it just kind of worked out that way. We have people that are really, really funny. There's no eye rolls. I mean, it's not, oh my God, that's pathetic. No, you don't hear that. People are just, they're falling down, and it's side split. And I think that's exciting to see that, which is not conventional wisdom for puns.
Yeah. And the other aspects of this, and I'm sure we're creating curiosity with the audience here, is, so you've built community, you've put this game show thing together. You definitely engage the crowd. And by the way, it's a sold-out crowd every night. I don't know how many. It's over 200 people in this packed room. And the vibe is energy, energy, energy. and you break it up in very good ways, and we can talk about that. But in talking, so when you're up there and talking to people during breaks, with the audience, you hear, "Oh, I could never do that. Oh, she was so witty. He was unbelievable." But this is what you do. You give the audience the opportunity to get up on stage and compete. And man, it's just wonderful to see such talent come up, right? So explain how you do that, how you get people to
what we
commit.
used to do, I guess when we started, it was like the first 18 people that signed up at the door participated in this tournament, a pun tournament. And we didn't celebrate the champions beforehand. This is all before the pandemic. Okay, that's how we did. We signed up people at the door, the first 18 that signed up. And then we, after the pandemic, where we did 16 virtual shows when New York City comedy was closed down from March 2020 to August 2021. That period, we did 16 virtual shows. And so it was really enlightening beyond what I expected in terms of, hey, we were able to do different things that seemed to work better, even though there was no audience there. Then it was difficult for people to perform without audience. But it was a way to engage and celebrate some of these winners, a lot of the winners, so that they were favorably predisposed to coming back, because there was a category of pun champions that was in this one specific tournament where they qualified for. So they were already vetted, they proved themselves, and when they came back every 4 weeks, during the pandemic, they had a spot in the tournament of pun champions. So that was enlightening to do it that way. So that we changed that. So once we came back in August 2021, changed a few things. We have this tournament pun champions where we sign champions up beforehand. We have again the leaderboard and how many wins, and we introduce people by that. And then we also have one of the things you saw, which is, and you alluded to it, is we find, is there an opportunity to get newbies involved? Well, to put them in the tournament, and the tournament is such that we give people a topic, and they have 2 minutes to prep on the topic, and they each do a 2-minute stand-up. Well, that 2-minute stand-up can be very long if you're not really able in this arena. And so they would, in our tournament, as you alluded to, we give people 2 minutes to prep on the topic. They have a whiteboard, they prep on the topic, and then they each have 2 minutes to do their stand-up on the topic. Well, a lot of times people that weren't really able would take that stand-up, take the full 2 minutes, and they would just stand up there and say nothing. Well, that sucks the air out of the room.
Yeah,
it takes away the value from those people that can really rock it. So what we decided to do was we're just going to have a tournament of bona fide Punderdome champions. In addition, for the newbie people, created something called the Pun Battle Royale. And I got this aha because in the virtual shows, we would prep everybody, the champions, we'd put a topic out and they would throw puns. And I thought, well, they would just kind of throw inadvertently, there's a pun on this topic, and we'd stay on the same topic, and people would just throw out short little puns. So we created this Pun Battle Royale specifically for newbies. So people would come to the door, sign up at the door if they were a newbie, and we would bring up 6 people and put the topic up, and they would 2 minutes total, and they would throw puns, and the only rule was you couldn't do 2 in a row. So that was a way to allow newbies to get involved, strut their pun stuff. And if they won that show, one of the things they could win, and you alluded to it, was, can you beat a dome champ?
Right.
What we did was, at the break, I said to the newbie, you pick the topic. You research on your phone for 15 minutes. And then at the end of 15 minutes, I'm going to bring up all the champs. You decide who you want to go up against, one-on-one or a 2-minute pun-off. Now, just to be clear, you've had 2 minutes to work on your whiteboard, consult your phone. You pick the freaking topic. The champion has no idea what the topic is, and they'll go 2 minutes one-on-one with you. So that's kind of exciting for people, and that's where, I think that you won that spot. You won.
Yes, I did.
And you beat our Pun Battle Royale. So you earned a spot. Can you beat a dome champ? And you came up, and then you picked your daughter, which was great, fun. That was good. It was just perfect poetry in motion. I mean, it just was perfect that you did that. So that's one of the things that we did after the pandemic.
Yeah. So what you've basically done, the way I'm looking at this, is it like in golf or in a horse race, you're handicapping, the person in a way that they have some advantage, against the champion, instead of the blank stare. And that's how you overcame that. Amazing.
That's another thing we've done is what inspired me is Beat Bobby Flay.
Okay.
Which is, I think, the Food Network, and it's this champion chef, and people take them on, but they are handicapped, or they get a handicap, they get a head start. So what we have, part of the program, in addition to Can You Beat a Dome Champ, we have Can You Beat the Dome Champ. So we have the existing Dome Champ from the previous month. They take on a challenger. Now, the challenger gets up to 24 hours prep on the topic.
Right.
We pick the topic, but they get 24 hours prep on the topic to take on the existing Dome Champ. And it gets pretty crazy.
It's nuts. I still have people coming up to me when I go to the Dome and say, "Oh man, that was the best." Then my head explodes.
And then it's crazy because before, and you alluded to this, before the pandemic, in my mind, this was a stand-up show for live competitors in New York. That was it. You got to be in New York. And I kind of roundabout way stumbled on as soon as we did the virtual show in March 2020. I started screwing around with the internet. I Googled on Facebook somehow. I don't know how I did it. Punters in different countries. So the next thing I know, we find these guys in UK, somebody got in Australia, somebody in freaking Malaysia.
Right.
So,
right. I remember.
We realized that you don't have to be a New York punter. Now we expanded. So it was cool because when we'd start at 8 o'clock at night in New York, it'd be 14 hours. It'd be 10 o'clock a.m. in Australia. And so that they could participate in the live show. The guys from Australia were 14 hours in advance. The Malaysia guy was at midnight, and the UK people were 4 hours.
Right,
so it was a way to expand, but we didn't strategize that. It kind of happened. It wasn't because of it, it was in spite of us.
It's funny because that encapsulates your career as a Punderdome creator. It's unleashed on you, which is in a good way. Is you have a clean slate to work off of. Okay, where are we going to go with this? You're not boxed in. So I think that's kind of amazing. What's also amazing is the fact that, and I saw this with other artists who, you were right, people were dying to stay connected to their audience. It all could have crumbled right there. It could have been Punderdome no more, but you found an avenue and then you learned from that. And what a great lesson to weave and dive through this to make the show even better. What's interesting to me, and with my daughter Faith, who's hot cross puns, is she was very open to criticism. And I would say, hey, you know what? The audience is really cheering for you, okay? And you have to make that connection with the audience, get endeared to the audience. And she does a phenomenal, and I've seen the progress, right? The progress over the years where self-effacing humor and not afraid to go, a little blue in some areas, even though her father's in the room. The one thing I want to point out too is all the different styles of delivery that are out there. Amazing. And then the question I had for my daughter after the first two Punderdomes I went to, I'm like, who the heck are these people? What, they're screenwriters, they're actors, they're regular Joes, they're IT guys, they're, this and that, matchmaker. And I'm like, what a cross section. Anybody can be a punter, right?
Yes. It's a whole new, I didn't know many punters growing up. I didn't dabble in the pun area. So it's been interesting to see what different people have done and how they do it and the value they bring to the experience.
Yeah, and now it's a disease. I just got to tell you that because, when we find we're in family conversation, it's just like a lot of groans, a lot of laughs, a lot of eye rolls. Keeps my eyes in shape with the eye rolls. But to that point, so Faith is a teacher, and she uses puns in her lessons, especially when she was teaching fourth graders, to help them with linguistics and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
Well, she's a unique person. I mean, I think she's a person of passion. She's doing something. She wants to make a difference, and that's exciting. And she uses different vessels to push that envelope. But she's very creative, just creative in different arenas.
Now, I noticed one of the things that you used to do in the beginning of Punderdome, you kind of set the stage in that this is a safe place, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Yeah. So there's some political things that come in very slightly and stuff like that, but it's really not damaging comedy. Mm-hmm. I would say damaging comedy is a weird term, but there is a very friendly competition and a cheering on between champions. It's really it's kind of fun to watch, So, but I want to reiterate. So I'm sure I feel it now. The audience is like, well, how do I get to Punderdome? How can I, I'm in another part of the world. Well, first of all, there's the Punderdome card game, which you can find on Amazon. And actually, I looked on YouTube today. There were a bunch of people who reviewed it and gave it great reviews.
Yeah, there were a bunch of people that didn't like it so much. But
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I think what's interesting is when you're in the arena, you're out there swinging away. That's where you want to be. You're not always going to win them, but just to be in the arena in an area you're passionate about, it's a great quote I always use from Teddy Roosevelt, and he says, "I'd rather be in the arena of life, trying stuff and failing, than those unfortunate people that all they do is criticize those people and never get in the arena." So, if you're in the arena doing something you like, you'll try it, and it's not going to work all the time, but you got to set them up in the next alley. So it's okay. It's
exactly.
It's like you're not in the arena. What you do, I know that.
Yeah, but it's what I find so funny is the twists and turns and the directions, and watching these punters, just the wit that comes to it, and there are really some amazing people who've won more than 14 times for sure that are really pros. Yeah. At what they do, and they rotate in and out. They're not there every time you do the show, but you got a good staple of people who are passionate about.
It seems like that, and it's fortunate, and it's you just want to cherish those folks for coming back, and you want to make it easy for them to want to come back and celebrate them. And I get such a kick out of when somebody tells me they were noticed on the streets of New York, or or they're proud of how many wins they have, and they should be. We want to make it that they are the champions. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. And my whole thing with host is, I want them to. I don't want to suck the air out of the room. I do my stuff, but when they're punning, that's the eyes on them, and that's how you don't need to have the one up on. You don't do that. You let them rock, and they do, and you got to give them that space. And I think that's important.
Hey, I left a little teaser of a mystery, and I really want you to talk about it. There's a young lady or a pair of twins that tell us about what they do musically, and talk about the silly the songs that I actually got to do. I think Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and something else, and it's so campy, but it's everyone sings with you. So tell us about that and how you came up with that idea.
Well, there's no downtime at the Dome. All right. So if you look at the main event, which is the Tournament of Pun Champions, we bring up 2 heats of 6. And then I will give them the topic, and that's 2 minutes where they'll work on their whiteboards. Now, that 2 minutes is downtime. However, we established there's no freaking downtime at the Dome. So if we're just everybody's waiting for them to fill out, and we got music on or whatever, we don't want downtime. So how do we fill the downtime so the audience is always engaged?
Right.
So what we've been kind of roundabout way, there are 2 official Dome parodists since 2015, Wendy and Susan. Okay.
Right.
They came to us initially, and they were doing a parody, and now they write parodies. Each of them writes a parody for each Punderdome, and there's a component of the parody which is a sing-along.
Right.
So they celebrate the Dome and their experience, and it's wonderful. but the audience and is involved when they come up. It's important that when they do their parody, there's got to be a sing-along component.
Right.
Because if they sing along and the audience is engaged. How we first got into that is we put together a list of TV songs from the era of people that were in the room. And I found that a lot of those songs had choruses. People knew those from their childhood.
Right.
So in order to avoid the downtime before we had the official Dome parodist, we would bring up somebody that would pick a song from their childhood. We have all the words, and they would lead the song, lead the group in whatever that song was. And the audience, of course, because they knew these songs from their childhood, these TV songs, would sing along or join in the chorus.
What's amazing to me about that, and I relate it to going to any live event, even with music. And I said, what makes it special to me as an audience member, when I feel that intimacy between myself and what's ever happening. By the way, I've just forgotten about politics and my woeful situation, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
maybe that's why we go to the theater. That's why we go to live events, to take a breath, right?
Well said. Yeah, good
Yeah,
thought.
and when that happens, and you're singing next to one of your coworkers who you dragged along to come see your daughter or see them play and see them in a total different light, it's so much fun, and you can see the champions bring their friends and buddies, so it propagates itself. And I don't,
hopefully that's well said. Hopefully it does. We just do the best we can each time, and how do we make connections and celebrate people that participate? And then we always say we all participate. So even if you're influencing the direction via your applause or lack of it, and trying to influence the human clapometer, you are part of the show.
right.
And that's important. And what I enjoy is just at the intermission is talking to people about how they got there, and
Right.
who they like, and they all have passion feelings about. It's like a sporting event. It is a freaking sporting event. Who they want,
for
who they
sure.
like, and I've seen this person participate, and they really brought it for the first half, and so it's fun.
Yeah, it's a couple things that I'm thinking about that some little twists and turns. You'll have, I think at the final round, you have them face off, right? You throw the topic off, and I forgot what you call it. They're just going head to head,
Yeah.
And these two gladiators of puns are facing off against each other in great humor and like. Whew, all right, let's another couple of minutes. The audience will scream for more, and I'm thinking about the Roman Colosseum. It's not blood, but they want more guffaws and side splitting.
You're right. That's it.
And I tell you, it's inexpensive. What is it, like $15 a ticket? You can
it's 12 or before the day of, and then 15 the day of. And,
and it's on Eventbrite. And again, we'll have those links in there. So you have an event coming up this week, July
9th, Wednesday.
July 9th. And you're trying some new things there too, which should be really, really exciting. I'm going to be there. I'm dragging my wife. Not dragging. We don't drag each other. We like, now she's working where she can, not get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's
so,
great. Oh my God. Yeah.
We were just talking about it today. She goes, I can go to the Punderdome.
Oh, well, that's excellent. Well, you guys are stars. I mean, it's just,
cut it out.
No, it is. I mean, it's just.
No, I know I'm the star. It's not, my wife's not the star. You kind of
You
lumped her in.
That out on your own, fella. And I'm just reading the cue cards here. Okay. But it's interesting. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I'm really encouraging the audience. We're going to give the links to the Punderdome YouTube channel where you could see what these people do, and the montage that gives you. By the way, it's a great montage you put together. It's like a little over 2 minutes. That gives you a flavor of what to expect. But I think it was Bruce Springsteen when he says, talking about music. He goes, it's kind of like sex. It's there's not so much to talk about it. You got to experience it, and that's what it is. You got to experience the dome.
Question: is that just a statement, right?
That's not a question. No.
Okay, all right.
No, I don't want to check off the explicit on this particular.
You know, one of the things I want to mention too is
Yeah.
this will be the first time since the pandemic where we streamed it. So that was the pandemic. We had virtual shows; they were streamed, and New York then Littlefield didn't allow that option until now. So we're streaming
Nice.
our first show. Streaming tickets are available for $10. I think there's a $2 fee on top of that. But you can buy the link for the show has in live tickets and live streaming tickets.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I know, because what we would experience, you know, if we weren't able to go to a particular dome,
Yeah.
we say, hey, you know, somebody in the audience, one of her friends is videotaping her session, you know, and like we'd be waiting, oh, she made it to the next round. Oh, she made it to this round, you know. So what's great about that, the different punders, punder people, whatever. Now they're friends and family who live afar and can't make it to the show. Can eye roll and guffaw and side split in their own privacy of their own home.
I roll, guffaw, and side split. That's good.
Yeah, I think
Good, man.
I think that's a song. That could be a song.
That's right.
Hey, Fred, it was
Yeah,
a
man. This
real
is great.
pleasure. I'm so glad we got to finally do this. We've had so many great conversations, and
Yeah, well, I appreciate, and as I told you, I appreciate your passion, and you get it. You really get it, and it's very gratifying for me just to hear your questions because, you know, when you build a thing, you want people to perceive it in a certain way, and you don't know that. You have to go out there and you swing away, and who knows?
Yeah.
But when somebody, you really personify getting it, you and Deb. I mean, it's just
thanks.
been amazing, and you're amazing parents. I can vouch for that. So
Thank you. You know, it is when you see anybody close to you having fun and passionate about what they do, and punting is interweaved into our family life. It's a common denominator for it. It's a lot of fun, and it's I encourage everyone listening to this episode to go check it out. And
thanks.
I'm going to end this way. I usually end it different. I'm going to do a little twist. Be generous with your joy, everybody. Keep your spirits high, and let the puns take you on a journey. Be well, everybody. Till next time.
Amen.
We'll see you.
Thanks. Take care.